Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk.
What's up, everybody? Big Herc, Prison Talk. You're tuned into another edition of our show. And a lot of you guys have been asking me to come back and do Prison Talks, but I've been trying to diversify it with different people answering questions. And, you know, we can only talk about so much shit inside prison. So I'm gonna start touching on stuff outside of prison. And one of the things I want to touch on is interacting with the police and how to conduct yourself. Since I've been out, I've had only 2 incidents where I've actually gotten stopped by the police. And you know, the way you open your mouth, you know, what comes out your mouth, all that plays a critical fact in how the police react to you. One time, actually the first time I got pulled over was I was still on probation, and I was out hanging out in Malibu. You know, I had just went to meet a friend, and you know, we was chilling and shit. And I went to leave, and I was, you know, turning out of Malibu on the PCH, and I got pulled over. Now, at the time, I had I think it was a '96 Sedan DeVille Cadillac, you know, in Malibu. So I was kind of out of pocket, and on top of that, one of my rims didn't match on my car, so it probably looked like I was, you know, somewhere where I shouldn't be, because you know they probably ran the plates and looked at the unmatching wheel and thought, hey man, this guy's he's totally out of his element. So I got pulled over, and I seen him coming out the gas station when I turned. I had my blinkers on and everything, and yeah, I pulled over, and you know, a big cop came up to me, a big Caucasian guy, and right behind him was probably 3 or 4 other cop cars. They were deep, right off the top. Boop, Malibu, they don't fuck around. Pulled me over, came up to the car, and he didn't ask me for my registration or my insurance. His main thing is like, you know, he asked me for my license, and he asked me was I on probation. Now, for you guys out there, if you're on state probation, you're probably in a local computer. But I was on federal probation, you know. Actually, state would be state parole, but I was on federal probation, which doesn't necessarily come up when they run your name. So, of course, I said no. I'm not going to tell on myself, and why would I do that? So I said no. And he said, you're not on probation? He said, you ever been arrested? I said, no. He said, you never been arrested? I said, no. He said, oh. He took my license, walked back to the car, right? And I'm like, I had the registration and stuff there. I'm like, damn. You know, I'm like, fuck, I've been to juvenile hall, I've been to CYA, and I've been to the pen. And he was gone for probably like, it seemed like an hour, but it was probably only like 4 or 5 minutes. He came back, he had my license. He said, so you're not on probation or parole? No. He said, you've never been arrested? I said, no. He says, oh. We had you mixed up with somebody else. We thought maybe, you know, you had been in some kind of trouble. I said, no. He's like, oh, okay, go ahead and have a nice day. So I stayed chill. I drove off. I said, I'm never driving this Cadillac out to Malibu again, man. But, you know, if you got a bucket, you got something that don't fit the profile, stay your ass out of Beverly Hills, stay your ass out of Malibu, stay out of certain areas where your car doesn't fit, because at the time, you know, my car, I think, was registered to somewhere that didn't fit the profile, and I got stopped. Now, a time after that, I was in Malibu. I'm in my, you know, I got a nasty green Chevelle, candy paint, big motor, you know, all hooked up, muscle car. I'm in Malibu. I'm off paper. I'm chilling, and I'm actually hanging out at a car show, and I'm going to leave, and a cop pulls in, and he's like, blocks traffic. He's like, hey, man, what year is your Chevelle? I said, oh, it's a 72. Man, I got a 69. I'm hooking up my car, man. What you got up in there? I said, oh, man, I got a LS motor. I popped the hood. He's like, oh, man, this is clean. He said, what else did you do to it? We're talking suspension. We're talking exhaust. We're talking interior. We're talking transmission, all this stuff. He was hella cool. You know, people honking horn. He said, hey, man, go around me. Go around. You know, cop was cool as shit. So, like, not all of them were going to, you know, bust your head in, you know. There's some cool dudes out there. He was cool though. He, you know, talking cars and stuff, man, and you know, and man, we chopped it up for like probably like 10 minutes, and after that, man, dude, you know, I rolled off, but no problem. So, you know, I've been in the same place, different vehicles, and both times nothing, you know, no issues, no problems. So, you know, you just gotta watch how you conduct yourself. You know what, I was actually lying at first when I said I only got pulled over twice, because I've actually had a couple other interactions, but they were all cool with the Popos. Another time I was in my NSX, I was going to visit a friend, and I was in South Central, you know, over by like USC, not too far from MLK, and I'm trying to get directions, so I'm pulled over, and a cop pulled behind me, and he pulls behind me, and he like, you know, flashes the lights. And I rolled the window down because the window's tinted. And he's like, hey, what are you doing over here? I said, I just pulled over because I was checking my phone. I was trying to find an address. He says, he looks in and he sees my wife. He's like, who is she? I said, that's my wife. He's like, you got ID? He's like, yeah. He's like, so this is your wife? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, hey, man, you shouldn't be parked over here. He said, man, what kind of car is this? I said, oh, it's an NSX. He says, oh. He says, man, you know where you're at? I said, yeah. He's like, nah, man, you must not know because you shouldn't be over here, man. This is a bad area. He said, man, there's prostitution, there's gang violence over here, there's all kind of stuff. He said, man, you know, you guys need to go somewhere. You know, you need to get up out of here. You need to go somewhere else. So I said, oh, cool. Okay, cool. You know, I got in the car, started up, you know, took off, but no issues. You know what I mean? So sometimes you'll get people, and it just like I said, it's reaction. You know, I've heard from a friend of a friend that a lot of times they do an attitude test when they pull you over. So your attitude is going to determine how they're going to react. So just be cordial, man. I mean, you ain't gotta rile up. You know that, you know, sometimes things might be said in order to justify pulling you over. If you're not doing nothing, man, just be cool. And, you know, a lot of times you'll be able to walk out of that situation. Another time I got pulled over in my NSX, I was actually driving to a car show. I'm mashing, you know. My homeboy followed me in his Porsche, and I see the Popo get behind me. So I look in my rearview mirror, and you know, it's sprinkling a little bit. So I'm not even driving that fast. I'm like just pacing it, and I get over, he get over. I exit the freeway, he exits the freeway, and I'm like, all right, man. Next thing you know, I see them lights. Whoop. I said, okay, here we go. So I'm kind of like, oh man, where do I pull over at? Pull over, pull over. He's on a speaker. And I was about to make a left. He said, hey, you don't follow directions. I said, pull over. I said, where do you want me to pull over at? Rolled the window down, pull over there. You know, go straight. So I go straight, pull over, roll my window down. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. I said, oh man, here we go, man. I done seen this shit on Facebook, you know. He walked up to the car, license and registration. You know why I pulled you over? Well, for one, you were following the car ahead of you too close, and your tinted windows. I'm like, following the car? I said, okay. Here you go, sir. Here's my information. And he looked at it, and he kind of looked at me, and then he's like, you know, my wife is next to me. He's like, how old are you? I said, man, I'm damn near, 46, man. He's like, oh, it's like, well, you know anything about these guys that, driving on the freeway up here, there, you filming, doing crazy stuff on the freeway? I said, man, I don't do that stuff, man. I go to the track if I want to act a fool. He's like, oh, who's that guy behind you? Was that guy with you? The guy was following you? I'm like, yeah, that's my buddy, man. We go to car shows and we chill. That's what we do. We're older guys. We watch, go to car shows, and, we hang out and have a good time and go eat afterwards. Oh, okay. Where you going? What car show? I said, up the street. He said, oh, okay. Yeah, man, some of these guys, man, they're doing all this stuff, man. I said, look, man, I'm too old to be playing those games. I don't do that stuff. He's like, oh, okay, well, all right, man, here's your stuff, man. Have a nice day, have fun, and, see you around. cool. So there you have it, man. I mean, I've had a couple run-ins, nothing crazy, you know. There was one other time I remember I got pulled over in my Chevelle, driving down the street, unmarked, pulled me over and flashed the lights. I'm like, God damn, what's happening with this? And I pull over and the guy jumps out the back, look like they're doing a ride along. He says, oh man, I just told him to pull you over because I want to see what kind of motor you had in your car. I got a 67 Camaro I'm restoring. I want to, you know, your car sounded pretty hot, so I'm trying to see what you had in here. I'm like, oh, okay. I started chopping it up. So we were chopping it up, man. So I've had some, actually my pullovers or stops have been actually chill, you know, and I can't, like I said, speak for everybody. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, Big Herc, you full of shit. Motherfuckers be getting fucked up, man. I mean, dude, I'm telling you about my experiences. I've had favorable experiences. You know, Popos have been very cordial, and I know stuff does happen, and it's a sad thing that it does happen, but for the most part, you know, how you conduct yourself, your tone of your voice, body language, all that plays a factor, you know, and I just want to say when you are involved in a stop or a situation, you know, just follow instructions. You know, you ain't got to get all crazy. You know your rights. You don't have to tell them your rights. It's kind of like, you know, do what you need to do to get out of there, man, and get back home to your family, man. That's what it's all about. It's not about, you know, confrontation. And, you know, this is something to share with everybody. The Popo is going to be watching this as well as the regular individual. And, you know, like I said, I've had nothing but positive experiences. Not to say it's positive getting pulled over, but I haven't had to get tossed on the ground. You know, God bless for that. But you know, hopefully, like I said, this will kind of give you guys a better insight on if you do get stopped or you come across. You know, a lot of times if you have a decent attitude, you won't have to deal with a lot of the, you know, you won't get that reciprocal, you know. So just remember, they feed off of energy. Be cordial. Just have your paperwork together, and you know, don't be doing no stupid shit on the freeway, man. I mean, we all drive crazy here and there, but for the most part, you know, be on point, and you won't have any problems.
Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in. Exclusively at FreshOutSeries.com.